Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Conspiracy Farm, where we don't start the conspiracies, we just add the water. And now, your host of the most state-of-the-art, most informed podcast on the interweb, I present to you Pat Miletich and Jeffrey Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for war?
Locked and loaded, ladies and gentlemen. We are off with another episode of the Conspiracy Farm, where we do not find the conspiracies. We just add a little bit of water. Jeffrey Wilson right here with you, riding shotgun with my partner in crime, as always, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich. How are we doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing super. I'm out here on the East Coast. Craig's out on the West Coast. You're in the beautiful Midwest, and I'm excited to have this gentleman on. I've got 3 daughters and have taught children for many years in martial arts and care deeply about our younger generation, as does our guest. And so I'm very excited to have him on.
Well, yeah, and we definitely have unfortunately, some evil roaming the countryside, ladies and gentlemen, and this guy has been doing his best to combat that, not only on the battlefield, but this battlefield against human trafficking and child sex abuse. His name is Craig Sawman, Sawyer, former Marine Corps vet, former Navy SEAL, sniper, combat instructor. He also heads up Tactical Insider, which brings technical advice on weapons and combat to Hollywood films and the actors. He also heads up, which we're really going to talk about today, vetsforchildrescue.org, an organization with objectives to educate and really increase public awareness, assist law enforcement and other legal entities to prevent and reduce pedophilia, human sex trafficking, and child sex abuse. Craig Sawman, Sawyer, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing great. Thanks for asking, and I appreciate you gents having me on.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time. Unfortunately, like we talked about a little bit off air, this is not one of those feel-good episodes. This stuff is a little bit of everywhere. It involves a little bit of everybody. It's local, it's regional, it's state, it's global. If you don't mind, sir, talk to us a little bit about your organization and how you got that started, vetsforchildrescue.org.
I started this one out of anger and an overwhelming sense of urgency to do something. I'm an action guy. I'm not one to sit around and listen to injustice and agonize and complain about it. I'd rather go and just put my hands on it and try to fix it. So that's what I decided to do with Veterans for Child Rescue. Just since this election, I began learning much more about what's going on with the child trafficking inside of the continental United States and how much corruption is being affected by this, and just how dark and ugly a lot of this crime is for the children. And I really started becoming abraded to it and determined to do something that I could to kind of change the dynamic to this battle. And I realized I've got all kinds of close friends and powerful contacts at the top of the intelligence community, federal law enforcement community, counterterrorist community. These are where all my friends, kind of, and associates come from. So I thought, man, we could really do a lot with this, but what's the best weapon, so to speak, to bring against this crisis? When I realized, from having seen crooks at the top of the Federal Air Marshal Service get fired for gross mismanagement and other things, I remember watching them and watching their arrogance turn to fear and loss of control and desperation when some of their agents went directly to the media outside of that protected sanctuary, which was the federal government. These crooks did not have any influence or power, and I saw that when they lost that dominance and that power, that's what rattled them. And I realized, okay, that's a very, very powerful lesson learned, that these powerful crooks are arrogant and they're abusive and they're hostile to their people until they're exposed to a degree that they cannot tolerate. So that's the weapon that I reached to.
We're seeing that right now too. We're seeing the powers that be rattled by a lot of what's going on right now. And we're going to talk about, rat lines and this human trafficking, et cetera. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but we're seeing that same kind of rattling going on inside government right now.
Yeah, it's just starting. I mean, these are the early days I mean, the American people really haven't even set foot on this battlefield yet. It's still empty. The only people there are the bad guys, and they've had their way with it. And I think the exposure does cause them a great deal of fear. I've had high-ranking intelligence officials that kind of monitor everything that's out there, provide overwatch for me and my team, notify me very early on, well, immediately, upon my announcement, my public announcement of the founding of Veterans for Child Rescue. The top officials of 2 different organizations specifically began panicking and formulating their attacks against me to shut me up. And because they're deep into pedophilia, both of these. And one of them are the top officials in one of our 2 main political parties here in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see them self-identify as human traffickers and pedophiles and child rapists. I thought, wow, they're panicking all over the internet trying to figure out how to shut me up. Well, I never mentioned their organizations. I don't care. To be honest, I want everybody to understand. For me, this is apolitical. I'm out to make a brighter and safer and less harmful future for all children, and I don't care who's abusing them. They need to go down and they need to be exposed. We need to clean this up. So I always say sunlight is the best antiseptic for corruption.
Yeah.
And the only way that you can turn something around and put a stop to it, especially when the corruption is this deep and this old and reaching this far, is to rip the lid off the cesspool, rip that manhole cover off, shine the sunlight on it, expose it for everybody to see, educate the American public on the fact that this is happening, how it happens, so that we can all rally together, force stronger legislation and stronger enforcement of existing legislation to beat this back for the kids.
And how do people help you? I mean, obviously you want people to donate money. I mean, that you need money that gives you the ability and the resources to go after these people, and so people can go to vetsforchildren.org and donate there.
They can. Vetsforchildrescue.org. We've got electronic donation buttons, and we've got a physical mailing address for them to mail checks and other forms of payment if they so choose. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for folks. But that's just one aspect of it. Another aspect is getting the word out. People don't know that we exist yet because we're pretty new, just several months old. We're just getting started with this. And as well as rallying support and really holding their own elected officials' feet to the fire to get on this.
Accountability.
Yeah, man.
Something you mentioned, and Pat and I talk about this all the time. We are equal opportunity roasters, man. We really do try to just bring out stuff that's going on both sides, with being kind of apolitical about this stuff because it's going on both sides. And even as we get this information out, Craig, it's so frustrating because if you talk about a story that might involve, say, a Democrat, it gets spun as, oh, this is the right wing attacking a Democrat, and vice versa. It always gets framed in this political framework, or filtered through this political filter of right-left. You know what I mean? So that's always kind of frustrating.
It's been very harmful to have our country so split up and divided by those who should have been leading us and uniting us. Look, if you hate a nation of people, you want to divide them so that they are easily conquered. It's a weak nation who is divided.
Yeah.
And shame on us for allowing it. I think now is the time to recognize that this problem is bigger than any one group, or no matter how you want to divide people, or color, religion, anything else.
Yeah.
None of it matters. I think as a human being, we all can recognize that our children are our most innocent and precious resource and segment of our society, and they simply should be safeguarded. That's just common sense. Unless you're just a completely sick-minded individual or horribly overly medicated, you can look at that and go, man, should we keep children safe and happy, or should we torture them to death and rape them in satanic rituals and all this other nonsense that some of these people are doing? I mean, it's a very easy situation to identify which side of it you're on, and it really has nothing to do with anything else.
Well, and this is also a huge a huge part of the swamp that Donald Trump talked about, right?
It is. There are too many people, and like you guys said, and you're absolutely right, it exists on both sides of the aisle. This just permeates every aspect of our society, the churches, the schools, law enforcement. There are people, while the overwhelming are still good, thank God, there are too large a percentage of judges, police chiefs,
yes,
teachers, principals, people in the churches who have abused those institutions to facilitate child trafficking and child rape and child harm. And it's unfortunate, but we need to shake that off and hold those accountable, no matter where they're from, and focus on the solution. The solution, as I see it, is exposure, number one, because this has been going on right under our noses in too many cases.
Yeah.
And I mean, they sell children out of nice homes, out of nice neighborhoods. They do it on military bases in certain areas. They abuse every which sort of asset that they can to facilitate this, because there's so much demand for it by the depraved, and there's so much money changing hands. I'm hearing now that child trafficking is beginning to exceed even the illegal drug trade in revenue.
Yeah, and it falls even into a guy who was a former Spetsnaz special forces guy from Russia who had to hunt these people down, hunted terrorists and stuff. He's now an American citizen, but he saw this stuff firsthand in places like Chechnya and the stands and Kosovo and other places, and it's alarming. So I'm assuming that through your work as a Marine and as a SEAL that you probably witnessed some of these horrors overseas also.
Well, I've seen a lot of injustice, a lot of heartbreak and devastation. I did not see human trafficking directly with what I was doing, but you've got to realize I was part of a very highly specialized unit that was brought in to solve very high-level problems.
Right.
For national security for the United States. So we would go in, surgically solve a problem, and then extract, typically come back home or pre-stage somewhere else. So we weren't out usually hanging out like UN troops being a police action or something like that. So
yeah, you were part of Dev Group, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the best of the best, which is I'm just going to throw this out there. Did by chance go off on a tangent? Did you by chance work with Cardo Urso when you were an air marshal?
I do not recognize the name.
Okay, he was an East Coast guy. That's a friend of mine. But I'm guessing you probably had to have worked with Woody Mister some, right? Yep.
He's a friend of mine. We didn't really meet until more recently, though. But he's a good guy. So yeah, he's definitely a brother and a friend.
Okay. Yeah, great.
Yeah, we had him on a couple episodes ago, as well as the former Russian Spetsnaz he spoke of. Honestly, a part of this, I mean, because it is happening globally. Have you heard, or in the trafficking and the financial part of it, and the people and the sexual aspect of it, have you heard anything about the organ harvesting, which appears to be going on from Haiti to the Sudan to Kosovo, etc.? That's also being facilitated by these rat lines that do the drugs and the people, etc.
I have, not as much as for the satanic ritual abuse, but I have heard some on the organ aspect of it. And I would imagine that some of the same people, some of the wealthy that can afford pretty much whatever they want, and they need a kidney or a liver or whatever, and they'll order, and somebody will make that happen and bring it to them.
And it's frustrating, and this is alleged. So I mean, Pat, thank you for being mindful about saying alleged. Organizations like the Clinton Global Initiative are said to be a part of things like this: child abduction, child trafficking, organ harvesting in places like Haiti. I mean, Clintons cannot go over to Haiti now. They are very, very well disliked over there. And that's part of this whole thing. It seems like you have organizations, again, allegedly, UN, WHO, facilitating things like this. I've been reading reports that some of these small minor cholera outbreaks in like the Sudan and Haiti, etc., are being used to have children hospitalized so they can then go in and basically are disappeared and have their organs taken. Parents, hundreds and hundreds of parents are being interviewed and saying that this is happening. My child goes in for a small thing, and I just never see them again. Any thoughts on that?
I say shame on anybody that believes the Clintons are nice people at this point. I mean, honestly, and it's not personal, but you can do a 15-minute internet search in this day and age and find out what a serious crime family the Clintons are, and that's not an exaggeration whatsoever. If you just watch one documentary, watch Clinton Cash, it'll walk you through who the Clintons are, where the money goes, and what the picture that paints.
And that just came out not long ago.
Anybody not picking up on that at this point, because it's silly to pretend she's just a nice lady who's somehow misunderstood.
And how the conversation gets hijacked to Trump and Russia, et cetera. Wow, that movie came out maybe 2 years. I mean, not long ago. And like you said, they chronicle all the abuses, and that's just scratching the surface. But people divert their attention to I mean, don't like Trump personally or whatever, but anything he's done bad is nothing compared to what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's all political distraction. Those are techniques that are used in the political world. So we got to stay focused on, eye on the ball.
Yeah.
On the objective, keep exposing this, keep working for the children. Now, what we're going to do, we're shooting a documentary series.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. Well, it's so difficult, even for me. Every time I learn a deeper aspect of this, somebody peels back another layer of the onion and says, "Hey, Saw, check this out." I'm like, "Hold on, I need proof. Show me." It's discouraging and it's disheartening for me to learn what mankind resorts to when given the means and the opportunity, or a percentage of mankind rather. Right. But it's the kind of thing to where we just got to roll our sleeves up and attack it. I can't. Pat, you'll recognize as a fighter, when somebody starts abusing somebody in front of you and it's clearly wrong, and somebody can't defend themselves, you'd probably be inclined to step in and say, "Whoa, stop that!" That's not, you're not going to do that in front of me.
Craig, you probably have more. You probably have more restraint than me. I didn't get in trouble for it, but I've actually beat a couple people up that were abusing puppies. So if it was a child, it'd be real ugly. Yeah.
Well, that's the nature of someone who's inclined to take action for justice. So we've got to, I think that the key is to get the word out, inform the American public, because so many of us don't know. We're unwitting to it.
Right.
So I realized that education is job one. We can go with the team that I've got. We can go start rescuing a child here or there after weeks or months of investigation. But with 27 million children or young people victim to this globally, that's a gigantic crisis. That's not something that you can solve onesie-twosies. We need a giant shift in understanding and a tidal change in this battle. And the big guns, the big nukes that I could bring to this battle really is the exposure. And how do you get the word out? How do you educate the masses? I decided that education through a documentary and documentary series would be the most effective tool for that. And so that's when I reached to my friends in film and television, just the right ones that aren't chicken. They're not afraid to go through this.
Yeah.
Or part of it, because so much of the entertainment industry is.
Yeah.
Film, television, and the music industry, they all prey on children. It's sad, but we started to put this together to educate people, because knowledge.
And what's amazing is you probably recognized Craig, and I'm just thinking the way I would be if I walked into an office, a Hollywood office, and wanted to pitch a show, and I said I want to do this documentary series. And this is what it's about. What team are you on? What team are you on? Are we going to do this show or aren't we? I mean, you've got a lot of leverage there to get a show done, in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I recognized early on that the gatekeepers did not want this aired to the masses. So there are certain ones we probably won't even mention it to, because I don't want them to have time and opportunity to try to obstruct what we're doing.
Yeah,
right.
We've already got a pretty good avenue solidified, and we're just going to run with that unless a bigger opportunity comes out. But with something like this, that's part of a movement that people are sharing with their friends and family. It almost doesn't matter which platform it lives on. It just that it's available to the public, and they'll go there and they'll seek it out and find it, consume it. So that's what matters is the information. So I'm not looking for anything other than to empower the people so that we make this. Now, here's another spec ops analogy is the term non-permissive environment. Let's say you're part of a SWAT team here in the continental United States. You want to go do a raid on a crack house. Well, if you pull up out front, the neighbors, generally speaking, aren't going to start shooting at you. If it's a nice neighborhood, the neighbors will bring you a glass of water. Everything okay, officer? You need help? You want to use my phone or whatever? I mean, it's a permissive environment. Everything's okay except for the target. Well, in certain terrorist-held strongholds, we call that a non-permissive environment because anything goes wrong, you're going to fall into enemy hands. They're going to butcher you and burn you alive or whatever they can think of, non-permissive. Yeah, it's not okay for you to be there. And if they figure out who you are, you're toast. Well, I want to create a non-permissive environment out of the American continent, out of the American public, so that these scumbags moving and abusing and harming and even torturing children to death cannot do it any longer right under our noses at their will, at their leisure.
Well, you and Pat had something to talk about then, because, Pat, you were just saying put together some kind of nonprofit that assembles a crew that creates that non-permissive environment, essentially.
I mean, I literally, Craig, I was sitting there when I got the video from Sonny Buzikas of a toddler that they were getting ready to take the organs from. I was angered. I was so furious because I have a 3.5-year-old daughter that I literally said to myself, I look, there's with 27 million estimated victims, there's not enough room in the prisons in our society to hold these people that are preying on these 27 million. So what do you do when you don't have room for them with people that are this sick, Craig?
Well, that's not my problem to solve.
I get it.
I can't do it all. Now, I will tell you this: a lot of these elites, they murder a lot of children and they rape a lot of children. So one of them will abuse hundreds. So I don't know that there are as many pedophiles or abusers as there are victims due to that dynamic. But I would suffice it to say that there are too many. And that's enough for me.
Right, and let's shift gears, and there's a crack in the dam now. People don't realize that the American public have no clue about this, just as you've said. But one of the Awan brothers was arrested at Dulles Airport a few nights ago, and that's big, isn't it, in terms of combating what we're talking about today?
It is big. It's big that he was trying to flee the country, and it's big that apparently, if I read properly and just scanning, he had forwarded some money over to Pakistan or wherever else he was trying to get to. Look, there cannot be arrests and convictions and scandals indefinitely without there being some justice. I mean, there's got to be an awakening of the American public, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you're saying, hey, this is starting to come out. People are starting to get aware now. So many of the crooks in D.C. with this new president, with the new DOJ, with the new heat that the president's putting on the DOJ to get after it. And, there's a lot of work to be done to clean that swamp. It's not going to drain itself, and that swamp does not want to be drained. So it's going to take some aggression. I think just in the last few days, we've seen all kinds of unraveling of different crime groups and criminals that have been kind of exposed. So I think what we're going to start to see is with the first big names going down, and the Awan brothers and the one that they've got in custody now, there's been so much obstruction of justice surrounding those guys.
Right.
And once we can get into one of those laptops, one of those files, and start demonstrating what's in there and how much manipulation and corruption has been going on because of it, I think we'll begin getting our first major big name arrests. And then from there, I think it'll be an accelerating domino effect, a cascading series of successful raids and
suspicious deaths.
Well, there's been a lot of suspicious deaths.
Yes.
And they all seem to be coming from one side. Everybody that's going to testify against the Clintons ends up dead. It'd be laughable, except for their real lives being lost.
And most recently, in the last couple months, Klaus Oberwein, Barrington J. Weisenhut, Julie Ferguson, Seth Rich last year, Peter Smith, the Chicago guy who was investigating him, 81-year-old, supposedly asphyxiated himself with helium. And then Sean Lucas, the guy who on tape was serving the DNC with papers, he winds up dead on his bathroom floor within 48 hours.
Yeah, we've got a serious problem in that town. So I'm confident, based on the aggression of the new president, and I share some mutual friends with he and his family. I'm confident that his heart's in the right place, that he's trying to genuinely clean up the swamp as advertised. And I suspect that his pressure on the AG, on Jeff Sessions, is to turn up the speed and the heat. He's not very patient. We've got to go, man. And people voted for drain the swamp.
Yeah.
Did you hear his speech today, Craig?
I did not. No.
It was he was all over. Yeah, he was all over MS-13, all over the human sex trafficking with children. And he basically spelled it out. He said they are done. They are done. And he's going after them hardcore. And my fear is, I was talking to Jeffrey earlier, these people that are doing this, they're very powerful people, as you talked about, and people can draw conclusions for themselves and figure that out with their imagination. But these people are powerful enough to affect, I take it as far as to cover up their crimes, because there's so many of them in power that are in trouble. Do they have the ability to assassinate the president? Do they have the ability to have a NATO plane go down somewhere and say that the Russians shot it down and start a war?
Some kind of false flag.
Who knows?
Well, I would say yes, and by several indicators lately, it seems as though they have that intent.
Yeah.
And I would just hope that that's being countered intelligently and effectively. Now, once the swamp begins to drain, a lot of these people in positions like that will lose their positions of power and authority. So over the next 6 months, I suspect there are going to be probably a few thousand people whose hearts and minds are in the wrong place. They're aligned with the opposition against the American people, and those people do need to go. And it makes you wonder why none of this has been exposed or dealt with over the last 8 years or longer. Yeah. And so it's I fault the people that are angry at President Trump, when if you look at any measurable statistic, man, the job growth is way up. Unemployment is going way down. The Dow is setting new records. Our national security is being smartened up. The illegal invasion is way down. I mean, by every measurable statistic, things are better for every American citizen. So it's only through a systematic false propaganda campaign that people are angry and just emotional and, well, I just don't like it. Well,
yeah, exactly right.
Look at the facts. Your life has been made better already, and you're too lazy to look at the facts and recognize
intellectual laziness. That is so true. I just used that term today. It's like people just literally intellectually lazy. They would rather be emotive and be mad about whatever personality thing about Trump than like see the pit sucking evil that is transpiring right in front of us, like you said. But like the lack of awareness that you can't know what you don't know. I guess.
Yeah. And I keep wanting to go back to the means of covering things up. I mean, the John McCain banging on the podium, suddenly coming back and making a spectacle and wanting everybody to vote with him. feeling sorry for him, whatever the hell that was all about, coming back, banging on the podium and talking about, these sanctions against Russia. We know who the deep state is, and you can tell by the way that they act when they do interviews, things like that, the way they speak out against the president, and they're pushing these sanctions. They want Trump to veto them so they can point the finger and say Russian collusion more. I'm wondering how he's going to play this out, if he's going to veto it and let them override his veto, or is he going to let it go and call Putin and go, look, dude, just let this play out. These people are in big trouble. But you can see to the lengths that these people, I see it as a chess match, you can see the lengths that these people are going to try and shut Trump down because they know they're about to be exposed.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But I think the President Trump thinks several steps ahead, and I think they continually underestimating. That's why they're getting crushed. I mean, look at CNN. They've fallen 13th, 2 spots behind Nickelodeon at night. Cartoon rerun, literally. It sounds hysterical, but it's literally fast. So, today, if you look at Chuck Schumer celebrating John McCain's contribution to the Democratic agenda, it's like, wow, they're so happy about what a good Democrat John McCain has been, except for he's not supposed to be a Democrat at all.
Right.
What's he doing? Well, hold it. What's going on here, folks?
Right.
So, John McCain, it's almost as though he was determined to put that final nail in his coffin and poison his legacy for all to see beyond any doubt that he was part of the deep state and against the American people. So shame on him. I'm sorry that he's sick, but boy, he's shown himself. He showed his true colors last night. So it's a despicable decision he chose. But
and it tells you that really spells out as clear as, I mean, even somebody with one eye and half a brain can see the desperation in that move because he knows what's about to come out.
Yeah, well, I don't know why he did it. I would assume he's paid off or threatened or both. But,
how many people have been compromised, do you guess, by the Owans?
The Owans, I wouldn't even hazard to guess, because they've had access to so much data and information that that's going to be a long and tedious case to prove out, and I think that one's going to yield convictions for years and years and years, and rightfully so.
We'll see how it goes. I heard Debbie Wasserman's brother, as a federal U.S. prosecutor, a U.S. attorney, has been assigned to lead that case, and then you have Owan getting a lawyer, a Clinton associate, for his lawyer. So you got Fox. Well, what do they call it? Fox investigating, or Fox looking up to the hen house type thing. It's not really, or not, whatever that is. Something like they're investigating themselves. Like that's horrible. Conflict of interest.
I'm not big on executive orders, but I do believe in them in cases like this where you've got obviously conflict of interest. You've got a complete failure of the justice system. If you got Wasserman Schultz, I mean, she's rancid. I mean, the woman looks like a street walking crystal meth addict. You look at her in her eyes, she looks like she's a complete lunatic, and what she's involved in is so dirty on all sides, and it's readily apparent. I would have no faith in her brother to act in good faith over that case, and it should not be allowed. So something needs to be done. It needs to be intervened. We need to have a justice system that works in good faith. It needs to be honest and straight and unbiased. And in cases like that where we can see that there's obvious deck is stacked to one side before the case even begins, that should not be allowed to go forward. Let's not waste our time.
Yeah, and I think I go back to listening to and watching her question the Capitol Police chief on, she was trying to find out if she was being investigated, the way she was questioning him, saying, but wait a minute, if you find something that's lost that belongs to, a member, then you're supposed to give that back, correct? And he goes, yeah, but, if there's no investigation, whatever, this and that. And she goes, well, yeah, if there's no investigation, that person should be able to get that equipment back, right? And he's going, yeah. And she went through the same thing like 3 times, and then finally he goes, but this is a different instance. Let's just put it that way.
Well, she was threatening the Capitol Police. She was threatening.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, saying that there would be repercussions and this and that. But so you could see the fear in that woman. You could just smell it coming off of her, the way she was questioning. And when he said, this is kind of a unique situation, I think she recognized, oh shit, I'm under investigation.
It's a wrap.
She's rancid. Well, that's how all federal crooks act. They're hostile and they're arrogant.
Yeah.
Until they lose that control, and then they are terrified, and then the knees start shaking because they realize their despicable actions are going to be exposed for all to see. And that is exactly what the doctor ordered. That's what needs to happen, and that's what's about to happen in her case. And you know what? She earned it, so she needs to reap it. Look, my dad always told me, my dad was a pastor of a church, man. His heart was pure. That man lived 24/7 what he preached and what he learned in the Bible. And so, I mean, he was genuinely just a good man. And he told me, hey, if you don't want to get in trouble, don't do it. Like, who was it? Beretta used to say that if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Right.
Hey, man, people. There's nothing wrong with living a straight and honorable life. I would argue that it's far more rewarding than lying, cheating, and stealing, and manipulating, and trying to benefit from things unjustly. It's a rancid cesspool that unravels and spills on itself eventually. And let's look at these child traffickers. Part of it, when you get to the very highest level of it, a lot of these elites are into satanic ritual abuse of the children, which they believe they get supernatural power for torturing these children to death. Now, you don't have to be a religious person to realize that those people are misguided. They're just horribly misguided. You've got to be an idiot to think that you're somehow going to have a better existence, that you're going to be more fulfilled, and you're going to feel better about yourself for having brought unthinkable harm to the most precious and innocent among us, rather than going and doing something really badass and awesome and making things better. I mean, it's just, even without the spirituality of it, we can sense that that's truth, as human beings. So I look at these people and I'm like, man, shame on you. You got billions of dollars, some of you, and this is what you resort to? Right. This is what you choose to do? What kind of pathetic scumbag? And I'm not here to just call names and run them down, but I'm genuinely scratching my head going, that's what you've chosen with your life.
Right.
You're going to answer for it. Either on this side or on the other side. But my gosh, people perplex me, man. So, hey, I'm not going to count on them to see the light, change their ways. Right. We're going to expose them and do it ourselves.
Awesome. Go ahead.
Something we talk about oftentimes on this show is like the vast matrix and the network of kind of social engineering, which kind of sometimes normalizes this madness. And you kind of see that nowadays with certain aspects of society, your NAMBLA or whatever that is, are attempting to kind of normalize this kind of behavior. Tell me, if you will, and I heard in previous interviews doing show prep, tell me a little bit, if you will, about Alfred Kinsey and his role in kind of, for lack of a better term, attempting to normalize pedophilia, if you will.
Well, the same people that say all these other abusive crooks are just nice people would try to say Alfred Kinsey is just a nice scientist. In actuality, he's a sadomasochistic pedophile. And that's not something he refuted. That's who he was. His genitals were mutilated because of the type of sex apparently he preferred. I mean, this guy had some serious psychological issues. Well, he went around, the damage is that he submitted falsified studies about childhood sexuality to suit his own personal perversions and his own preferences. So what he did, he was very aggressively in going around state to state politicking, changing the laws to soften the laws against pedophilia, to make our educational system friendly to it, and even our healthcare and psychological counseling system to teach that it's okay, that's not a big deal. But in actuality, a child has not the ability, the capability yet to advocate for themselves against an adult. And even if an adult is not going to physically harm the child in a horribly violent way, it's still psychologically harmful, extremely harmful, and it shatters the psyche of that young kid, because the child later is trying to reconcile how that happened, why it happened, whether or not they were to blame, and all of this harm that comes in trying to understand something that should have never happened to that precious little child.
Which lingers long after the physical, not that the physical is terrible too, but that heals. But like you said, the psychological lingers for lifetimes. Look, trauma shatters the psyche, and what it does is it ruins the way people relate to everything else after that. Now, I won't say that there's not the ability to heal from that in some cases, but on the whole, by and large, people that have been psychologically assaulted like this, through this manipulation and harmed in that way, they're damaged for a lifetime. And that ticks me off as much as the physical abuse, because poor people, they're innocent and they haven't done anything, and that should not happen to them, but it did. Some sick SOB is doing something to them that they're going to spend the rest of their life struggling with. It's harmful. It's evil. That's what it is. It's evil.
Yeah. And you know what? I would make a bet that everyone knows someone who was assaulted as a child. And that's the thing. They're everywhere among us who are adults who went through this. I've got a personal stake in this in terms of it damaged my family. The Catholic Church, one of the priests abused my two oldest brothers. They both ended up dead at pretty young ages. They committed suicide. So for me, I take this stuff very personally.
Yeah. Well, I had no idea that this was so pervasive in all of its forms. My father taught me, when I was in public restrooms, to look out for men that may be, perverts, and want to kidnap me or something like that, stranger danger. But that's it. That's kind of all that I understood. And it wasn't until I lived most of my adult life and I met so many people who, like you said, have been victims to this, and God bless them. It's harmful. It's harmful.
And getting people to really get it, Craig, and it's not that, I was raised with the Johnny Gosh story in Iowa, and, the first kid to be put on a milk carton. And with so many of these kids, they just are abducted and they just disappear, and you don't hear anything about it. It's only when you start understanding the real depths of the issue, if you choose to go to understand it, and like you said, the satanic ritual aspect or ritualistic aspect of this, where they are not only just sexually abusing them, they're killing them and sometimes even eating them. That really just, with normal human beings with a soul, that has to touch you in some way.
Yeah. Well, it's horrific, and I wonder, in a lot of these cases, why.
Sorry, it's a motorcycle riding by.
Why more people don't intervene and say, what kind of sick tangent are you getting off on? Like if you look at the Michael Jacksons and all the big stars and Howard Hughes and all these people that can afford to kind of isolate themselves, and they just grow strange, man. And it's a shame that those closer to them aren't able to intervene more forcefully and say, stop it already. You're getting just downright weird before they get completely evil. And I don't know. I'm learning more about it every day. I don't like it. But look, the good part of this, people ask me how I deal with the facing the evil and learning about it all the time. And I tell them this. man. The overwhelming majority of mankind are good.
Right.
People are standing up as they're learning about it and going, oh, hell no, this is not going to happen on my watch. This is not going to happen in front of me. Back to that fighter thing. Look, there's a lot of ways to fight for your country. You know, you don't have to see a puppy being, tortured right in front of you. We know that these children are happening, and we can picket, we can get online and notify people, we can write our elected officials and hound them, hold their feet to the fire and say, you'd better stroke stronger legislation or encourage stronger enforcement of this for our kids, or we'll fire you, we'll put somebody better in your place. You're out of here unless you perform. And we all have the power to do that. That's what our founding fathers wanted for us. We have to assert ourselves as citizens. That's not only our right, but our responsibility. And, until now, American people, we're busy and we're raising families and we're being productive. And we can't, a lot of us haven't been able to be bothered with politics because it's so dirty and contentious. And,
we talk about that a lot. We talk about that a lot, how parents and families just don't have the time to kind of go down this rabbit hole as deep as it is. They kind of get their fast food news from the 30 seconds they watch the news, and they think they know what's going on, when in fact that's, not at all, that's not even at all what's really happening. There's so much more.
When you talk about laxed laws, the state of Iowa has very lax laws on this, Craig, and I even, having a guy, I've trained law enforcement for about 20 years and have a lot of good friends in that world. And, talking to those guys in the state of Iowa, they go, we just have to turn the cases over to the feds because Iowa's laws aren't strict enough. The federal laws are more strict. And this was at the time that I was talking to a guy about it and a couple different officers. And so that's the thing, is you're correct 100% that the laws have got to be very strict on this.
Yeah, and we can make that change. If we can't be bothered with it, if politics is inconvenient for us, well, guess what? Now our nephews are off in themselves. They're committing suicide. Now our family members, now our kids falling victim, now our neighbors disappearing, and we don't realize that it's all because we can't be bothered to get off of our duff and have a part in a free society and assert ourselves as citizens to make our voices heard. So it's time for us now to do that. We've been quiet and we've been passive for too long. If we leave the cupboard to the rats, they'll destroy everything. And now's the season when we get in there and we clean them out, so that things work the way that they should. We can have leadership from D.C. The president, if he wants to, he can get on national television and say, hey, all of you states, I encourage you to stroke stronger legislation against this and enforce it more heavily, because look at how harmful it is. He's got the ability to do that. That's leadership, man. And I think that'd follow suit and encourage the people. He can encourage the people to say, hey, look, hound your local officials for stronger enforcement. And we could bring that about. So I think that's the encouraging part that I want to make sure everybody knows about is look, the tide is just about starting to turn. People are just now starting to learn that this is a situation in the first place. And I think rallying together, uniting again, instead of being so divided because you got a different hair color than me, or you got a different parking space than me, and all these silly little color, size, shape, gender, BS excuses for dividing us. We need to realize that that's hostile. You don't do that to someone you love, to a nation that you love. You don't divide them and turn them against each other. You unite them. You tell them we are one. You cause them to be one. You give them a reason and help them to be one. And because we're stronger together. That's positive. That's healthy. That's what a real leader does that cares about his people. And so that's what we can all do. We can all, as citizens, unite, take a little bit better care of each other, assert ourselves, get stronger legislation, clean this up, and create a non-permissive environment for harm to the children.
So, and how do, along with stricter regulations and laws and bigger, harsher punishments on this, how can everyday citizens start shedding the light on this stuff? Do they want to talk about it? Do they want to, How do they expose it? How do they shed the light on it even more?
I think it's important to talk physically to your friends and family and colleagues about it, saying, hey, you picking up on what's going on out there, and just start that dialogue, at the workplace when appropriate, and in your off time, just bring it up over the dinner table and just say, hey, look, here's a thing, man, and it's been so heavily suppressed with big top cover from the entertainment industry, from the news media, the mainstream news media, who are owned by only 5 or 6 entities now, by the way, all of whom are anti-American in their political outlook. So we should no longer expect the truth from them, because that's the situation that we're facing. And that's the reason they're all ravenously attacking our new president 24/7, is because he does represent we, the American people, in our best interest, and they do not. So that's the real rub. It's not about policy or anything else. I mean, he could cure cancer tomorrow, and they would say he killed a life form. You know?
That's true, man. That's very true. And that's very unfortunate too.
That's a good one.
So, it's that, I think, as well as getting on social media, Pat, and highlighting it and directing each other to the cause, and just alerting each other. Knowledge is power. Together we are what we can't be alone. Let's let each other know, alert each other. Hey, here's a problem. Let's unite to fix it. And I think by doing that, man, we really can turn this around very, very rapidly, like never before in the history of this country.
Well, and I've heard you in other interviews, man. We all have a voice now, and Pat and I have taken our opportunity. This is our stand. This is where we, exercise our voice, and we gotta, like you said, have each other's back. Retweet these interviews, share it. Even though this is a very, very difficult conversation, and quite frankly, with your last soliloquy, sir, I thought I was going to end this interview so down, but what you said, that was very actually inspiring. That's exactly what needs to happen. We all have to help be a part of this whole thing to take it all to the next level. We're all part of this together, man. Like Pat said in the beginning, like even if you don't have kids, especially if you have kids, the most vulnerable, the most defenseless, we got to help, man, because this is a little bit of everywhere. It's an epidemic. 27 million it's a big, big number.
Yeah, man, it sure is. And some of them are being rescued, some of them are escaping, and being rehabilitated and healed to the degree that they can. And there's a lot of good people already working escape and recover. So with the positive turnaround in Washington, D.C., I think the sunlight's just starting to come out, and we can all help.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. And thank you very much for your time, Craig. This has been awesome. And people can go to your website again, vets4childrescue.org, and donate money and check out what you guys are up to. Check out the docuseries that you're going to be doing, that you're filming, and all of that, and getting behind this war.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys so much. It's been a good chat. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and get the word out.
Thank you. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, brother.
See ya.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. There will be more.